Hey there, Naramata, it's Yanti. Seems like we've got a hot topic of discussion regarding the short-term rentals out here in Naramata. And I, for one, thought I wanted to opt in. In fact, that's what I wrote out in our little Naramata land. And so I understand that Adrienne had opted out of the whole thing. And so as someone who had a differing opinion, I thought maybe before I start ranting and raving at you, Adrienne, that I would catch up with you and ask you some questions. So welcome to my home. And I'm so glad to talk to you this evening.
Thank you for having me, Yanti. Great to chat.
Okay, so what's the deal? I wanted you to vote to opt in. I thought it was a great idea to help protect our neighborhood and to be able to have more, long-term rentals and really grow our community with love and kindness as we are accustomed to. What the heck? How come you opted out?
Yep. So just what you said, I love this community and I wanted to preserve what's happening and make sure that we continue to be a strong, vibrant, wonderful place to live. And so I chose not to opt into the Provincial Short-Term Accommodation Act because our current RDOS bylaws are stronger than what the province is proposing. And so as much as it doesn't feel like that, because our temporary use permit process, sometimes can be hard to enforce, what happens with our current rules is that you can't actually live in a vacation rental that is unoccupied. It goes against our rules because in 2012, the RDOS was sued by a local family. And so because they were renting out their home as a short-term rental, which we thought wasn't allowed, but we didn't have any rules in place. So the RDOS said, okay, we're going to put some rules in place. So we have had an opt-in method since then. And so I say opt-in method because we have what's called our bed and breakfast. And so to be a B&B, you have to live on site, you have to be present in the home when people are there, and it has to be in your principal space.
Is this called a short-term rental, or is this different than the short-term rental?
So currently it is different because it's a bed and breakfast, traditional bed and breakfast. And
so you own your own house, you decide you want to have people in there, and it's like, that's fine because that's your house.
You live there. And,
okay.
And in our current bylaws, you have to be on site when those people are in your space.
Okay, so here's a question that everybody's like burning for me to ask you. How come we're in this mess then? If we have already opted in-ish,
Yep.
then how come we're in this mess where we have lots of empty homes here and way too many, visitors visiting?
Yep. So a lot of that does come, unfortunately, from the enforcement of our temporary use permit. And so definitely something in this whole thing identified that needs to be cleaned up.
Okay, so temporary use permit. Tell
Yes.
me about the temporary use permit.
So a temporary use permit is essentially a landowner coming to the RDOS through an application process that says, I'm not going to be in my house. I don't live there. It's not my principal residence. I'm coming to the board to ask for permission for me to be able to use my house as a short-term rental.
Pardon me.
And so because enforcement right now is challenging, people are able to do that, just run their B&Bs without their TUPs because they know that enforcement is hard. So what the province has actually done, which is going to be super beneficial for our area, is they've given regional districts the ability to bring in a business license.
So do we have to opt in for this?
No.
It's already happening.
Yeah. So so we have what's called the Local Government Act, and that's what governs what land use and what things that we as a regional district can do. Previous to now, regional districts were not allowed to have a business license at all for anything. So the province has changed the Local Government Act to allow regional districts to have a business license for any business. Like, it's just a broad sweeping power that they have now, opting in or not opting in. So
what's important about having a business license?
So in a business license, well, one, you need to have it to be able to get onto any of the short-term rental platforms, which will be monitored by the province, and that list will be shared with the regional district if we ask for it. So without the business license, you won't be able to do that. The business license then with we bring in a bylaw into the RDOS that says you have to have one. And so then that means then that right now we'll stay just short-term rentals. So to be able to operate a short-term rental, you will have to have a business license. So if you don't have a business license and you're still operating, bylaw then will change our bylaw policy. That bylaw then can go in or go to you and tell you you have to have one and you have to comply.
So now we have teeth.
Now we have teeth.
Okay, because of the business license.
Because
okay, so I have this house I bought remotely. I live elsewhere, and I want to run it like an Airbnb. I got my TUP. I got my business license.
Yep.
So I can still run my business. I just have to be properly licensed.
Correct. So that your hurdle there, what's going to be key is your temporary use permit. So I will be advocating to the board and pushing that you will not be able to get a business license without a temporary use permit if it's not your primary residence. So that means then that gives residents the ability to know, a big notice board will go up that a TUP is coming forward. It gives opportunity for residents around that property to give feedback to the RDOS whether they want that there or not. Then there are some areas where a TUP comes forward and neighbors don't say anything. There are others that I've denied where residents have been like, huge opposition, they don't want it there. Great, I'm gonna fight for that you don't want it there. So if a non-permanent resident gets through that TUP process, then they'll need their business license. Without the business license, they can't advertise. So there's going to be quite a few key steps in there that if you don't live here, you're going to have to follow to be able to do this legally and properly.
Okay, so there's a way that you can still have business owners can still have their businesses running as they have for many, many moons, maybe like with their Airbnbs. And there's also going to be enforcement teeth if people are not complying.
Correct. Yep.
And this is going to be different than what is currently happening.
Yes. So right now it is quite laborsome for bylaw. They've got to either be out in front of a house and they've got to catch people in there. It's challenging right now. It's challenging for bylaw. And I did chat with our bylaw officers and our bylaw manager. And so the business license will give them that stronger teeth to go in and just be like, you don't have this. You need a business license. And so
do they go to the out of province potentially person? Do they go after that person, or do they like rock up to some vacationing?
No, they'll go after the landowner. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those that are advertising online.
And so the province, it sounded like you said something about the provinces would be willing to help with the gathering of information, yep. And we'd be working with the province. Okay, so what's the whole hang up? Like, why wouldn't we just opt in and then figure stuff out?
So a few things in there. Because staying internal, as soon as we change our policies and our bylaws, enforcement can happen imminently. So the minute that we change our bylaw enforcement at the board table, they can start going out and enforcing.
Like you could be at a board meeting tomorrow and you could say, hey, we want to start enforcing this, and they could go out and
yep.
we can tag. I know of a few people who know
yep.
where the problem areas are,
yep.
and we can tag them and start going after them right now.
Yeah. So whereas if we opt into the province, then we're waiting on their timelines, and then you're waiting on their enforcement times.
And if I can think about this, if this all is happening right now, presumably all across the province, they're going to be inundated right away with all kinds of
yep.
things happening in the bigger towns where this is really also very much affecting. So what you're proposing, if I'm reading you correctly, is that you want to keep our business local and not be having to rely on the province to get their wheels going.
Yeah.
Because they have bigger wheels and are dealing with way more population out there in the right other BC.
Yeah.
So if we keep things locally, then we'll be able to do this way quicker.
Yeah.
And more effectively.
Yeah, our bylaw enforcement will be able to get there as quick as they can, and to be able to enforce far sooner than the province. And I mean, the province still, they're not really sure what their enforcement's going to look like. They're not sure what that system is going to be. Whereas we know that we have a bylaw department. We know that as soon as we change our policies, bylaw is going to follow that and start enforcing them. So we have that ability.
How do you know that? Did you go to bylaw?
I've chatted with bylaw. I went today and chatted with our bylaw officer, one of our bylaw officers, and our bylaw manager, and our legislative services manager as well, to just, get that in motion. So
you're talking to the people who have their feet on the ground.
Yeah.
Ready to help Naramata build community.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. And that's where, like, the province with their short-term rental is that it can be your primary space and an accessory dwelling or your secondary suite. And that can happen with just a business license. So you can have up to 2 on your property. And in your primary residence, you don't actually have to be on site while there's people in your house. So if you want to go away for half the year, you could rent out your upstairs and your downstairs. Currently, in our current bylaw, which does not go away because we didn't opt in, you can't. It's only your primary space, and you have to be on site. If you want it to be in your secondary suite or you want it to be an accessory dwelling, you have to come to the board for a temporary use permit because it's not currently allowed. So you're restricted to one space and you have to be there. So our rules currently are stronger than what the province has. And we can have these rules, and we have them in place because of a legal battle that happened 12 years ago. So we've had this in place for quite a while, and we know the legal ramifications that come out of putting these restrictions on parcels.
And so you just got on board just recently. I mean, you're pretty new, right? Like, you obviously know what you're doing. You've been researching, you've been out and about talking to all the people that are in play here. But it's just taking a little while to get all of the teeth that we need in order to enforce the rules.
So coming to the board shortly is going to be a vacation rental review. So we're not quite sure what that's going to look like, but planning does have some public engagement in mind on what that's going to look like. And so from that, we'll gain more information on what residents would like to see. Because for me right now, I need to know if the component from the province, people are okay with it being a principal space and an accessory dwelling or a secondary suite, as long as it's a primary residence, then we just need to change our bylaws that reflect that. If we don't, if we want to keep it as restrictive as it is now, where you have to live on site and it has to be your primary space, I need that feedback, because then I will advocate to keep our current rules as restrictive as they are. And then also proposing that changes to, so we have a vacation rental enforcement policy, and so it's making sure that that policy is looked at while the review is happening. So that way, once business licenses come in, we're anticipating around May, then our policy is changed, and we can start making those changes this year.
And so all of this has been in the works all of this time. How come we're just hearing about this, Adrienne?
Which for me is just that internal processing to make sure that I had all the facts, to make sure that I was piecing this together appropriately, and just being able then to be able to communicate it out to everyone. I know that it's been frustrating for many residents that I haven't been saying much, but I just wanted to make sure that I was adamant and very confident in where we were going with this, and just playing through different scenarios and different things just to make sure that I was firm with where I was going and confident in that was happening. So now that I know where we're at, then we'll start communicating it far better.
I'm so glad to hear that, because I have to say, you were my choice I voted for you because I really felt like I saw you a lot out in the community. I saw the people that you talked to. I saw all the hours and hours of information gathering that you did in preparation to take on this job. And what I can see is that you are continuing with making sure that you have all the information, and that you are taking that information, which you have put out so many surveys, which I love. I love the surveys. Bring them on. I'm happy for you to keep asking us what we need and how we can keep doing better. We all have had really great ideas, and you've taken a lot of people's ideas and run with them. And I appreciate. I see that as well. I just want to let you know that I, for one, next time I think I have an opinion about what needs to happen in Naramata, maybe I can go to the expert, which at this time is you, and with my trust. And I trust that you are looking out for our neighborhood. You have kids here, you have businesses here, and I am going to do a better job at trusting that you have our community in mind wherever you go.
Yep, I always do. And it's that, tough decisions, but a balanced approach, the best that I can. Community and economic development is my background. It's something that I love. I love our community, and I want to make sure that it's the best. And it's best for everyone, and that I am, doing what I can to protect that and enhance that. And there's, a lot more stuff that I want to work on, like an economic development strategy, a housing strategy, just a community, development strategy, just like what else can we do that's really going to help enhance? How do we show, and I know you're a big proponent of this, how do we show those that own second homes that Naramata is amazing and you can live here all year, and that here's your first choice, not the Lower Mainland, not anywhere else, but Naramata. It shouldn't be a dream to move here in 10 years and retire. It should be, nope, we want to be here. We want to be in Naramata now because it's awesome and amazing, and it's the community that I want to be in. And so I really, with the help of everyone in the community, really want to get that out there, and really want to get our, those that are waiting to not wait anymore and just be here and be here now.